Are you Dr. Nate?
I am.
Nate Survey.
Yeah.
Welcome. Good to have you.
Wait, did you do a
Nate.
presentation in Chaska?
I did not.
Okay.
Nope.
Call this meeting to order of the Victoria Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. And quick roll call, Susan Bill is here. Dave Kleinfelter. Julie Hughes is absent. Patrick is absent. Jack, welcome. Thank you. Nancy, welcome. These are the four contenders that keep hanging in there, right? First item, petitions, proclamations, suggestions, or complaints. Anybody have any of those?
Weather.
Complaints, yeah. We're tired of the wind. Let's get rid of this.
Well, on a
Right?
positive note, we have the sun today.
And it's gonna warm up.
Yeah, well, by the middle of the week. Nate, we're glad to have you with us. Nate Survey, tell us about yourself and the Business Owners Association, please.
Yeah. All right. So my name is Dr. Nate Survey. I am one of the owners of Power of Life Next Door, and I'm also president of the Victoria Business Association. So the Victoria Business Association, or VBA, is a nonprofit that's made up of the owners of businesses in Victoria. We're also the ones that put on the Victoria Classic Car Night. Historically, it's 8 nights a summer that we bring hundreds of classic cars into Victoria, thousands of spectators, and it's a big fun time for all. This year, we are once again doing the car shows. There will be the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of June, July, and August. So it'll be 6 shows this year. The shows officially run from 5 p.m. until 8 p.m. The biggest thing that we are looking for is volunteers. We need about 3 to 5 volunteers for each of those shows. Volunteers would be there from about 4 until about 7, so about 3 hours. And really, the volunteers help park cars. So they will be standing in corners and just help direct traffic, make sure that people know where to go. Both classic cars as well as spectators, if they're coming to town and looking for places to park, just kind of help guiding them around. And so that's what so the biggest support we could use from the community is with that. And obviously we partner with the city with a bunch of stuff as well. And so we're very grateful for the city support in terms of setup, as well as the Concerts in the Park series, which run concurrently during many of those shows. So, yeah. Any questions?
Do volunteers usually get there earlier? Because they close the streets down quite early, like at 3 or 4. So what hours do you have?
So each of the 6 shows this year will be organized by either myself or 2 other VBA members. Typically, we're down here 2:30 to 3, making sure that we're all set up and there's nothing that needs to be dealt with. Really, in terms of parking cars start arriving in mass between 3 and 4. And so if we can for sure have additional people down here by 4 p.m., that's ideal. I always tell people it's fun if you can volunteer in pairs. So if you have a friend that you want to partner up with and park together, that way it's not just you by the up at the corner. That's always great as well. Typically, obviously, if we're holding the event, it's a nice day, and so you sit in the corner. It's a beautiful sunny day, and you just point cars in general directions. So it's super easy, pretty fun. And then afterwards, you can walk around, check out the cars, and obviously enjoy the event. So
Nice. Nate, question about the association. How many members are there?
So right now, I want to say there's between 35 and 45 active members. It kind of just fluctuates depending on the number of business owners in Victoria. But yeah, we're sitting at about 35 to 45.
And is the basic purpose to promote Victoria, like the
Yep.
classic car night?
So the whole point of the VBA is to promote Victoria, specifically Victoria businesses. And so Randy Miller, back in the day, organized the events to help draw people into Victoria, into the downtown area where they would just hang out, hopefully spend money, and get to know the city. And obviously, the event over the years has grown exponentially. It's a huge event. We get a lot of people from all over the place that have never been in Victoria before, and they visit the restaurants and they check out downtown. Obviously, I have a business downtown, and so I get people that just are here for the car shows and oh, there's a chiropractor right there, and then they give me a call. And so I think it's good for everyone just to have people in the area, and obviously some of the businesses do really well on the car nights as well. So
Yeah, nice. Questions, anybody, comments? Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
yeah, and I would just say if anyone does want to volunteer, just shoot me an email. It's drnate@poweroflifehealth.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me. Thank
Great.
you for having me.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah. Awesome.
Next, we have Don Plummer from the Health Department.
Hello.
Hi, Don.
I feel like it's
Been a while.
long
Nice to
time.
see you.
I know. And I've kind of forgotten maybe what I presented last time. So I was just going to bring up that Carver County Public Health, we're working on our community health assessment again. We call it the CHA. We do that every 5 years. So we're in the process of doing it this year. It's going to be 3 different phases. So and it's through survey. Most of it's through surveys. The first survey is going to go out to our partner organizations. So the City of Victoria will be getting a link to fill out a survey. And then we do a randomly selected mail survey. So those selected will get a survey mailed to their house. And then small focus groups will be chosen. And then there will be what we find around Carver County. So.
What sort of questions do you ask, or what?
So it's really looking at the health of Carver County, what different things, what the community thinks is an issue that we can work on. If you go to the web page, so this is what, and I only have one because, like I said, I forgot when I was even here last. So this is kind of the outcomes of the last one. We do every 5 years. It's all on our web page, all of this. So they're just asking kind of about the health of the community. So the partner organization survey is going to kind of ask, who do you serve? Do you feel like you're reaching the people you want to serve? What are some of the issues? What health issues do you talk about? What health issues are you seeing?
When you talk about partner organizations, so you'll reach out to cities, do you go to housing, do you go to health clinics, anything, chiropractic, a whole gamut, trying to really canvas.
Yeah, nonprofits.
Okay.
And then what they did last time is they created advisory committees that meet and kind of help form. Thank you so much. So yes, you see like in the housing sector, the transportation, communication. I think one of the big focuses that came out last time was the mental and physical well-being. And so this was, just a FYI that we're in the process of doing this again for public health.
So you said it's 5 years.
Yeah.
You're starting now, so nothing will be published or any results to after the 5 years?
So 2024, early 2024 is when they're hoping to have something like this published, the findings of the results. And we have to do this every 5 years, it's a requirement, so this will be an ongoing. Also, sorry, COVID just doesn't ever really go away. There was some new updates that came out, I think, last week. And so I just had them make a simple, this is kind of the updates. It's mostly for those over 65, can get a second bivalent booster. It's been 4 months since your first one. So here's just an updated, what the updates were. And then the other one is our vaccine clinic. So obviously if you want to get another booster, there's vaccine clinic opportunities.
So Don, there was a piece in the Tribune recently promoting, people our age getting the second booster.
Yeah.
So is that something you folks recommend? And follow on then, what's the status of this multiple shot that's going to cover everything in the fall?
We don't really get updates until they put them out to the public also. That's been in the works or been talked about for almost 2 years. So it's hard to know if they're gonna combine it with the yearly flu dose. I think everyone's hoping for that. until then, it's the second bivalent booster.
Yeah.
It's been 4 months. And they're only giving the bivalent
What does
vaccines now.
bivalent mean?
They formulated it to take care of Omicron, so when it started mutating. So they're trying to combine all the mutations. Here's a new vaccine for it. So bivalent to kind of capture most of the mutations. So they're no longer giving the monovalent vaccines out anymore. It's just this newer one.
So we're trying to decide whether to get it or not. And the
Right.
question is, it's, you know, as summer comes on, we spend a lot more time outside. We're not quite as risky. And we're kind of wondering if there's going to be another one in the fall, we can go ahead and get this one and not miss that one, or should we wait and kind of get the shot when we'll be more inside in the fall?
They're recommending getting this one now because most people, it's been 4 months.
Right.
What happened last fall is a lot of people were waiting for that. And then, so my son, for example, I waited till right before school. I got him the old monovalent booster. He was due for it. 2 weeks later, they're like, oh, we have a new bivalent booster. Come get
Right.
this. So it's hard to say, recommend, should I wait, should I not? We just recommend when they come out with updates, go get them.
Get it right then.
Yeah.
And there's no trouble with getting them every 4 months if they come out that often. Is that right?
Yeah.
You know, with COVID, it's a very aggressive virus. How, every time there's a new strain, are you going to have to booster and booster and
That seems like that's what we're going towards. They're going to keep changing this vaccine. And I think that's the idea, like the flu. They come up with a formula for the flu and hope they get it right for the flu strain that actually comes out that year. This might be similar to that. Having just had COVID, it was awful. I don't know what strain I got. I don't know if it's because I hadn't had it before. This was my first time. I was pretty sick. And have had all of my boosters and vaccines, so it's, yeah. Never a fun update, but it's still around.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, and that's it.
Bringing all the good news. So we're going to talk about our work plan. One of the topics is this walkability study, maybe trails, promoting trails and walking. Does that fit into your 5-year plan at all? Or is that any correlation there or overlap?
I'm gonna say yes, because we talk about physical activity, and that then is definitely what the SHIP, through public health promotes. And SHIP's been around for almost 12 years now. The state keeps funding it, so I'm gonna say yes, it all fits in.
Yeah, good.
Question always is to me is communication. How do we get older people aware of it? You know, there are these, maybe they're in the post office or they have them down here. But if people don't get around a lot, they may not see them. Or what can we do, or what can everyone do?
That is a common question because we post a lot of things on our website and we post it on social media, and our staff communications person is then, okay, we've posted it. And then I have to come and ask for a printed, just for those who don't go on websites or follow Facebook. So try to do our best of getting them out where we think people will see them, and then word of mouth. Just have a very generic, like, you can call if you want to, you could scan it and see where it is. Like, just try to hit all the different options. Public health always has, like, you'll leave a voicemail, but for any health-related question, you could call that number, ask it, and they will transfer it to someone who can answer it for you. So we definitely still try to use all modes and still have a phone number people can call. But yeah, that's a hard,
It
it's
is
a good,
difficult,
yeah.
yes.
Committee, if you don't mind me jumping in here, is this something you'd like us to help promote as well? Obviously, our summer and spring brochures already went out in our newsletters as well, but this is something, as we look at colder temperatures, I hate saying that phrase, but once we start thinking about fall or winter, is this something we want to include in our park and recreation guide, our newsletters, our online newsletters, etc.
I think the more
more the
vehicles
better.
and resources would be
Yeah.
a good thing.
If I hadn't read that article in the Star Tribune a month ago, I wouldn't have known about this other new booster that's out there, for example. So I don't know where people
I got
get their
an
information,
email
but
from Walgreens, I got one from CVS. and
There
all
you
that,
go.
But other than that,
yeah, so it's the more the better, I guess, because it's still important, especially for our age group.
Right.
I noticed that at the libraries, you're giving away your excess COVID tests, but they all expire in May, I think. Unless, do you have any new ones? And all the programs now ended to get free COVID
Right.
tests, so if it's on the rise,
So that's one of those tricky things with communication. So we get all the tests, we've been distributing them to the libraries. That expiration date is extended through December.
even though it says May on it.
Even though it says May. For a while, we tried to keep up and print new labels and relabel each box, but that got a little tedious. Sometimes they will print a sign and say these have, but you don't know that when you need to take a test and they're at home. Most of the tests keep extending their expiration date. That little liquid inside has its own expiration date that's years out. So they still are probably good, but that's a hard one to communicate to.
Well, it's like any expiration date. I mean, with food or anything, you know that the shelf life is a little longer.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of communication, and this isn't an action item, but the backside of this is stunning. The data snapshot. I know, did you turn it over and look at the backside? I mean, we live in what we think is sort of an affluent Carver County bubble. And when you look at the data, I think it's stunning to a lot of people that 40% of renters are severely cost burdened and 20% of residents have depression. And our binge drinking exceeds the statewide average by 200%. In terms of action items, what does the county do then?
Right. So the binge drinking actually is something that has come up in the last few surveys that we've done. One thing that our office does is we do responsible beverage server trainings. So we have someone that will come out and offer a training to any establishment that serves alcohol, any of the summer festivals that serve alcohol. She does it to the cities, just to try to address some of this binge drinking to the people who are serving it. That is one thing that we've been able to do, and that has come out of not this last round, but the round before. And to say, yes, this is very beautifully done, and it's buried on our website, so I don't know why anyone would, how you would go searching for this and find it. So I agree, getting this out, we talk about it, we need to share our results more widely.
And Nancy, too, with you with housing, Carver County is booming in housing. And with the Carver County Housing Authority in the last, 5-10 years, how many new subsidized HUD Section 8 housing projects have been built or are on the books to be built? Because all the housing that is going up, to my knowledge, especially the rentals, are very high. They're not it's not anything affordable housing.
Going off of memory, so out of our FAT group, they do have a housing group, and Allison from the CDA does lead that, and she's actually been going around offering her presentation that kind of talks to this. So going off of memory, I think in Waconia and in Carver, so they have to go and they have to apply for funds and they have to get funding to build these. They got denied last round and are trying again, and I think that's the one in Waconia. So they're trying to purchase property and then build new housing that would be subsidized and affordable.
And that can be for any age group, I mean, not families as well as seniors.
They do both. So they were trying to do a senior wing and then a family wing, and now they have to do one and then the other, just due to the funding they have to apply for. So they do both, actually. And then within those buildings, they'll have a certain number that are Section 8, and then the rest. But she does a great job of breaking down what affordable housing means, like 30% of your income. So if you ever wanted her to come speak at your meetings, they do that. I watched it in Chanhassen and in Chaska. She just goes into a lot more detail than I can remember.
Thank you.
But they are always working on it.
Okay, great.
Any other comments, questions? Dawn, it's always nice to have you here. Thank you. Very informative.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else on any other topic from committee members? If not, I'm going to call on Alyssa to chair the meeting, and we'll do the election of officers.
If you wouldn't mind me talking a couple events that are going
Oh.
on first.
Yes,
And then we
absolutely.
could
Sorry.
definitely get into the officer appointments. But I just wanted to bring your attention, we have this really cool program that is coming up next, this week, actually. May goes by fast. May 6th from 10 to 2, right outside here on the Bayfront Plaza. We have a group that's called Project Life. They're based out of Chanhassen, but they're going to be coming and doing a bike repair event. So anyone can come, first serve. And if you're looking for any sort of minor bike repairs, this is somewhere you can do it for free. So wanted to just share that with you. And we are doing this in partnership with Carver County Environmental Services through a grant program they are also offering. I also wanted to shout out for Donuts in Victoria. This is a monthly program that was kickstarted by our Parks and Recreation Department. Informational, talking about all things that are going on in the city. It's also free, and like I said, it happens monthly. So this next upcoming one is on May 17th from 9 to 10 a.m. It's also in your recreation guide if you're looking for further information. But this one specifically is going to be talking about growth in Victoria. Zoning, new businesses, all of that comes into our community development department.
Excuse me, have you heard what the attendance has been at those?
Great question. So we are seeing approximately 8 per event. However, this last one that was done on Right Away, I think that's a very interesting topic. We didn't have any respondents for that one, and it might have been weather-based. So when we're thinking about upcoming senior programming, this might be a really good indicator on attendance levels. So, specifically with this kind of time.
Who is the person from the city that does this?
So our recreation department manages it, Holly from our Parks and Rec department. However, it's put on by, or the speakers are different people throughout our organization. So a couple months ago, we had Eric from RIT talk about cybercrime and what you can do to help protect yourself. We've had Public Works come out and talk about snow plowing and removal. Obviously, our community development director, Jen, we talked to her a couple of months ago, is going to come out and do the growth in Victoria. So we try and balance it out by different members of staff.
Is there any way to publish what the topic will be for that particular month?
I think it's on our website, but I will check to see if it's on our recreation guide. Because when we talk about the next one in the fall, we'll see if we can get those scheduled and published in advance, because we'll want people to know, and maybe they'll pick based on the topic.
Do they have to pre-register?
You do not,
You do not.
and donuts come included. And then thinking about the sunny weather, we have concerts in the park that are starting Wednesdays in June, July, and August at 6 p.m. right again out here on Bayfront Plaza. A lot of these coordinate with the car show, so if you're out in the car show, you can also stop by and listen to some free jams.
Are the refrigerator magnets out yet?
I have not seen that. We should have asked Dr. Nate when he was here. Shoot.
Oh.
Yes, those really do help.
They do.
We have a collection from years past up by City Hall in the back offices. And then hands-only CPR class. This is a free event that's hosted by our Victoria Fire Department. It is at the Victoria Fire Station. If you are interested, it's going to be on June 14th from 6:30 to 8, and it is free. And then again, Donuts in Victoria, I wanted to, oh, not the May 17th one, but we have one coming up on June 17th, 9 to 10 a.m., and it's going to be on water conservation.
I don't want to ask too many questions, but, is the city of Victoria or Park and Rec, are they able to push out, do email pushes to promote events? I get them from numerous other cities. It's just very helpful to say, these are upcoming events, you know, whatever, and I don't know if they're targeted, well, I know in other cities they're targeted for certain populations, so. Are you able to do email blasts? Or
Great question. And there's some legality around that, so I'm just going to touch on it a little bit. And I had this on my next bullet point, so this is a good timing. No, that's perfect, Sue. So we do have city notification page on our website, and I would suggest anyone to sign up for these, especially this top one here that's news and updates. This is going to function as our monthly online newsletter. It is something new we're starting. So we have our quarterly printout newsletters, but we understand things that go on throughout, you know, the quarter that we don't always get to push out as easily because we are limited just to quarterly. So we're pushing out these monthly newsletters, again, digital. So sign up for these if you haven't already. We also do have recreation center updates on here. To push these out, you have to be subscribed to them. We can't push out to any emails that haven't specifically stated that they wanted these emails to occur. So even if you give us your email, let's say for your utility bill, we cannot legally push out any information on other things not utility bill related, even in emergencies.
Push anything out?
Nobody can. If you subscribe to Park and Recreation updates, then we can push them out. But if you subscribe to the Senior Advisory Committee meeting updates, we couldn't push out anything Parks and Recreation related. There's some nuances related to that. But great question. Now, social media is a different one. If you follow the City of Victoria, or if we place advertisements, then we can do some targeted ads. We have done that in the past. We don't see that being as impactful as what we might have originally assumed.
I have not looked over this real thoroughly. Will this information be in the new fall booklet that comes out? I think the more reminders for people to go in there and see that this is how you get updated is because I think older people don't check the City of Victoria website very much. I mean, there are a lot of people that probably aren't aware of what's available on the website.
Absolutely. With the kickstart of this this month, that's one of the big pushes is how do we reach people? And it's not just the older population. I don't check my hometown city's website very often. It's throughout, you know, any generation. It's just not the first thing that we think of to do. So, yeah, we're trying to identify how do we get people to know about this? Because again, unless you subscribe to it or you already are subscribed to it, you know, we can't necessarily push that information out.
But that's the key, is to promote people subscribing.
Absolutely.
Subscribe. I can't figure out how to get there on my.
We are starting a new resident information packet as well, and so this information will be in there too. Jack?
Well, interesting. I've been going to a workout thing in Chanhassen, and I got it on my email. And once a month, there's something from the mayor, and it not only lists what they are doing business-wise, but then all of a sudden here comes the entire list of activities. So they've somehow stuck them in there.
It depends on how you subscribed originally. So if it's just one, yeah. And it might be through the registration process, and we're looking at that too, because that's one big thing. You might fill out a form to repair a pothole. And that might be your one interaction with the city. Well, how do we get you to select a button that says, hey, I want to know about city news and updates too? Like, what can we do to tweak that? Or when we fill out a new application for utility billing services, can we put a little box on there that says, I want to receive digital city news? Like, what can we do to once you're already in contact with the city through something else, how do we get you to subscribe in addition to what you're doing?
And is the city website friendly enough where there are buttons for links where you don't have to search for these updates?
We think so. However, this might be a good topic for us and to discuss in the future is, you know, maybe a homework assignment. We can talk about it in the, like, let's have each of us navigate the city website and maybe we each pick a specific thing and see how easy you can find it. But for just today and what we're talking about notifications, right on the homepage, you have the get notifications and our social media buttons right here. But just in advance, if you're wanting to pay and apply, we have that right up front, attend a meeting. The Recreation Center is one of our biggest hits on our website. We can go through analytics and see that, so we make sure that's on the front page. We want to make sure people can easily find that. Then we have some other things about learning about Victoria and then reporting concerns.
So if you hit the link to get notifications, it takes us right back to where we just were, right?
Yes, it does.
And that's where they subscribe, right at the bottom of that page. By hitting that link.
Yeah, the problem is there's like 15 different things you could subscribe to.
There is. And we do have to keep some of those very specific.
Yeah, so I just subscribed. Hopefully I'll get it. Well, you gotta check all these things, right? Yeah, okay. You get what you want then. I get updates on the senior advisory committee.
Wonderful.
Yeah, good. This is nice. Yeah, so promoting that everybody does email now, even old people like us, right? We're still doing email. Our kids don't do email anymore.
Not funny.
But
Switch.
it's a good idea to just try to drive traffic there.
That's our hope. So if you think of anything, ways that we can promote this better, you don't have to wait till a meeting, just let me know.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Awesome. And with that, Chair, I will pass it over for the chair and vice chair appointments.
Yeah, so we pass it over to yourself, right?
And then we'll pass
You're
it
the
back
first.
over to me. So annually, we have to select chair and vice chairs for this committee. We do have to go through kind of a decorum practice, so we have to nominate somebody. They have to select the nominate, or accept the nomination, my apologies. Then we have to either make a motion to approve their nomination and select them, and then a second for that nomination. So we'll just kickstart it, and I'll pass it back over to you all to see if there is any nominations. And at the moment, we'll just talk about the chair, and then we'll do the same thing for the vice chair afterwards.
Well, I'd like to nominate Dave for the chair.
I would second it.
I third that.
All right, David, do you accept the nomination for chair?
Yes, I would.
All right.
Thank you.
Can we get a final motion?
I make a motion, that Dave be chair of the, Victoria Senior Advisory Committee for 2023-24.
Second.
Wonderful. Thank you all. That makes it easy when we select the same chair, because if we didn't, then we'd have to switch chairs a little bit, and then the new chair would have to come up. So this is always a good thing. Thank you, David. And then can we go through the same process for vice chair? Vice chair, again, just takes over the meetings when David happens to not be in attendance. And that's, well, Sue, do you have any other insights on what you've experienced as vice chair?
No,
All right.
not at all.
I'd like to nominate Sue for vice chair.
Yeah, and I'll second.
I was thinking of nominating Nancy.
I spoke quickly.
Beat you to the punch.
Okay, I accept.
All right. And then can we do another motion for the official selection?
I move we select Sue.
Do we have a second?
Oh, I second that.
All right. Wonderful. Then I think we're all set. That was an easy one.
Good, good. So we have, oh. Under new business, then the work plan, right, for, do we need a motion for this, or is this just an item that we talk about?
We do need a motion if we choose to amend the work plan. So I can talk a little bit about this. So back in December and in November, we went through the 2023 work plan and indicated what was important to the committee and things to review and discuss. So I placed the 2023 work plan each at your table. Sorry, Don, I did not have one for you, so I'm gonna put it up on the screen, just so we all are looking at the same document. So we talked about the assessment of the senior resource packets, and we can also look at the webpage and overall webpage design as part of that, if that's something the committee would like to look at, things that we just talked about. Senior Resource Expo, which we did talk about possibly partnering with other communities in Carver County to host. Recommend ways to better communicate and reach Victoria's senior population. I think that's an always, similar to what we talked about with the COVID vaccine clinics. Becoming a stakeholder in Downtown West Phase 1 and 2. We did do some of that earlier this year by talking to our community development department and providing feedback on what's going on in Downtown West for Phase 1 and Phase 2, and we'll continue that as they come along. Obviously, that's a multi-year project, so we'll just be a focus group when needed. Development walking and trail routes for the city and incorporate that into a trail map. We were indicating doing that this summer. And then continuing to engage with Carver County Office of Aging and having Don participate in these meetings. So that is what we currently had. And I do want to go back up to the better communicate and reach Victoria's senior population. And part of that, we had extensive discussion as a committee of launching senior programming, looking at the fall and the winter of next year, hosting monthly or bi-monthly activities similar to the Donuts in Victoria, but looking at a broader scope of senior resources and having groups like AARP come in and maybe the CDA to reach a larger audience. So that is what we currently have. And at our annual report back to the city council that was done in February of this year, Chair David came up and spoke to the city council about the work that you all have completed over the last 2 years. And one of their feedback suggestions was to take a look at a senior facility of some sort and what that may look like for the city. So I wanted to bring this back to you as a potential option on, and maybe how do we fit it into this work plan. I also want to note that at the time we adopted this work plan, we had 6 members, and now we have 4. So I thought this would also be a really good opportunity just to take a look at this and see what we can actively accomplish with less people. With that, I will pass it over for you all just to discuss, think about if you have any questions or ways you want to go about this.
So I'm pleased to hear that they suggested a building, because both Chanhassen and Chaska have a very, what do I want to say, inviting place, and they have activities as well as senior things and do lots of things, and I think that's something for aging people to go visit, if nothing else. If they can't find it on the website or whatever, they might stop in and get some information.
Absolutely. And I think as part of that, if this is something the committee chooses to put into their 2023 work plan, we would start by just identifying what is a senior facility. And we can't go and tour other senior facilities legally. Open meeting law violation. Open meeting law states that you have to have meetings within your city, but we can tour them virtually. Or we can just take a look at other senior facilities throughout the country and see what they do, and then figure out what can we do short-term with our own facility spaces. So taking a look at our recreation center, taking a look at City Hall, and looking at our Victoria Fire Station and saying, you know, we have these spaces available. How can we meet the goals of the committee for this senior facility and what we currently have? Like providing resources in a more open space. maybe providing programs in a space like every month in this specific area, having coffee hour at this specific space. And then looking at our space needs study and saying, is this something we want to add into that council? Is this something, you know, we've done the work for the short term, we have a growing need here. Is this something we want to look at the long term and incorporate into our space needs study? And then we can kind of go into that. So that is kind of the vision I've had over thinking about this since the council brought it up. If this is something we should incorporate into the work plan.
I'd like to see us call it out, you know, as an item. Otherwise, it gets buried in verbiage. I'd like it to be a separate item, wouldn't you? Just
Is that
because
to
you-
be a motion?
yeah,
You mean a separate item on the work plan?
yes.
We can definitely add that.
I would agree. I support what Jack said too, that somehow the physical facility brings it out to people, even though we all do this internet, you know, email and so forth. And when you talk about communicating to people about what's going on, somehow the physical location, I think, helps that communication. People can stop by or it gives a focal point for that to happen.
Absolutely.
The city's going through a growth spurt. We're talking about building the downtown west or something will happen there with the development. And the new fire station, right, is in the works. So as part of that, we ought to be thinking about where the senior citizens fit in.
And a new library space. I mean, you know, they're looking at a new library space, so,
Yeah, potentially same thing.
yeah,
It needs to be on the radar.
it does.
Front and center, and, good idea.
Because I think, again, I go to Chanhassen, but they have activities for small children, mothers and kids, an Easter egg, whatever. I don't know what they did. I didn't go in and check it out, but it was noisy. They were having, so it isn't just for seniors. I think that's what I'm getting at, is that might be more applicable to the community, to include, give more opportunity to lots of people.
When you mentioned Chanhassen, I know that in 1992, they started having a conversation of looking at dedicating a space for seniors. And there's, well, they call it their senior commission. They explored it for a few years. Actually, it started in 1990, and then it actually came to fruition in 1992. But it started out as a room in City Hall, you know, planning, and it evolved throughout the time. But you're right to identify it, to be on the radar, to make that awareness. And as Chanhassen grows, I mean, back in 90, that's where Victoria's going now. So,
Oh, and at one of the Citizens
and
Academy,
Shasta as well.
at one of the Citizens Academy events, and you'll be able to tell me which speaker this was, it was specifically mentioned that by X date, Victoria is expected to be the largest community in Carver County. So we've got to put a stake in the ground and put it on paper that this just can't be overlooked.
Totally agree.
Awesome. We'll make sure we add that to this year's work plan, is having some conversations about short-term spaces, something the committee would also like to take a look at.
I would be for that. I say yes.
All right, wonderful.
Because, I mean, to your point, we can co-opt an existing space, and we could, obviously, with city's approval, we could make, you know, one Friday a month senior donut day in the conference center at the rec center, and we host it, we make a pot of coffee, we bring donuts, but then we tell people, here's how you sign up for notifications. Here's how, you know, and it's just one more way, and that's just a teeny way to start co-opting some space. And if we start co-opting space, then we get on their radar.
Right, exactly. And I can speak for all of us. If we table it and don't look at a short-term space, it could get lost for another number of years. So, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Well, and I'm not at the Victoria Rec Center a lot, but every time I go in, I think, conference room's empty again. You know, and it usually is. So if we could co-opt a 2-hour time block once a month.
Well, and they even have another room in the back.
Yeah,
And the room at the Victoria Fire Station is in the back room.
It's turned into a gym now.
Huh?
It's turned into a gym now. But eventually, when the fire station moves, that's definitely a potential option.
You mentioned a number of things. You didn't mention Lions Park because that is not owned by the city, or, I mean, is that a space that would be available on a kind of regular when I say regular, once or twice a month, maybe during the day, but I don't think the focus always needs to be during the day. There are active seniors that are still working, and so by offering everything at 9 o'clock in the morning, you're missing a lot of caregivers as well as other people that might not be available during the work hours.
good point.
Absolutely. The Lions Pavilion and the Lions Park is owned by the city, so we are the ones that manage that building and that space. So that's definitely an option. So adding this, the first step is obviously adding the short-term and long-term conversations to the work plan and then getting it approved by city council. I think then the next step is let's talk about that short-term impact. What are our goals for it? What do we want it to look like? And then talk about location. And we can look at a variety of different spaces in the city, and then as a committee, we can provide some recommendations on transforming or co-opting one of those spaces into a senior space. So. Wonderful. Now, the next question before we have a motion to amend the work plan to include this is how are we feeling about the rest of the work plan and ensuring everything gets done out of here? I just want to ensure that we're utilizing our time efficiently with the months that we have left.
Okay, the only thing I would like to talk about is the Victoria Expo. We at one point talked about maybe piggybacking it with perhaps the pickleball open house. My thoughts are, what has changed from last year to draw more people and to promote the services and things we're trying to offer at the Senior Expo? Great job organizing it, great job providing, but I'm a little concerned at the attendance. We mentioned 50 people, I think, at one point. I think the majority of, I don't know. I think as far as actual people, there were maybe 20 people that attended. We had a lot of vendors and our staff. How can we improve on it, or what is our vision for that Senior Expo that we can communicate to possibly get more people?
It's a great question. And I think what we've had in past discussions right after the Senior Expo last year and thinking about it when we talked about this work plan in the fall was we didn't have that well of attendance. And it did take a lot of resources and time. So what can we do to still promote these activities to our community, to our residents, with a lower impact level to staff and to city resources? And one of the conversations that came up is better promoting other communities' expos that surround us. Chanhassen and Chaska specifically have wonderful expos that they host. What can we do to better promote the ones that are already right next door? And maybe talk to them about partnership. How do we do, if they're willing to do some sort of partner so that the city of Victoria has some sort of stake in the game for the expo. So I think that's where we left that conversation on. So we can definitely modify that if that's the direction the committee would still like to go. The other conversation was, we had all these great vendors. How do we promote them differently? Maybe we have monthly programming, bi-monthly program where we just take one of them like WeCab and have them present to 8 people, you know, the ratio of people that got to see WeCab is definitely higher, and you have a little bit more intimate knowledge if you have a smaller group that talks to the director of WeCab and meets with them, and then hopefully they become advocates for the program in the future rather than more of an expo, take a flyer and then move on. So those were those 2 conversations, but we didn't want to remove the expo completely off the work plan just because we were still kind of considering what are those other options for us.
So it's
But
on,
we can talk about that now.
Yes, so that was my question.
It's
It's
on
on here is happening in like May, right?
It's supposed to
Yeah,
be
yeah, we should definitely change some of those.
that was mine.
Yep.
So the question is whether we even have it, and if we, or do we morph it into some kind of a monthly activity instead of one big one?
My thoughts and recommendation would be we hold off on having an expo in 2023 and look to maybe do some of the things we talked about, some monthly events. That way we're drawing some more interest and some niches rather than having an expo that's not only staff and vendor intent, labor intense. Just kind of gauge what participation is as people come to the event, listen to them, see what their interests are, and hold off on a senior expo in 2023.
I second that.
Question, was that two-pronged, and we don't hold the big event, but we do try some?
It is two-pronged.
So we'd have to determine when and what for those smaller or more focused sessions.
And I owe you some dates on that. I have coordinated with Holly from Park and Rec on some dates for the fall and winter for those individual events. I just need to get those to you, and then we can kind of coordinate the who and the what.
You can't share the what at this point?
I think the conversation we had prior is the what would be determined by the committee, where each of us would sign up for a date and then kind of coordinate with the presenter on what that topic would be. So I know Nancy, you coordinated or talked to someone from the finance industry on presenting. I know when Curtis was still here, he was talking to some Veterans Affairs groups, but doing something more or less on that. But again, you know, with the lowering of our group from 6 to 4, is that something the committee is still wanting to commit themselves to? I just want to make sure that we're being open about the time commitment.
I would be happy to be involved in some stuff. I think we need to continue thinking about what we want to do and what these monthly events will be. One thing that jumps out is Alzheimer's dementia is a gigantic issue. You look at, I think, the CDC, they say like 34 million people are affected by Alzheimer's and dementia, not only caregivers, whatever. We have a great resource right here in Victoria as far as Emerald Crest and Christine. We've talked about this before. If you look at the month of May, and I think May is Older Americans Month, November is Alzheimer's Month. They do memory screenings. She's got an excellent presentation. Would that be something that we could look to possibly get her involved, to throw that out there in November as one of our events? And I spoke with her in the past. I don't know if she'd still be willing, but she's one of our local resources here. So trying to get some events, but I'm a little concerned about the deadline. When does the new booklet come out for the fall?
We would still have some time on there, and we've confirmed the dates already. It would just be programming some of the time. So we have some time there, yeah.
Some good ideas.
Very good.
Do you have dates in mind when we would start or when these would happen?
I believe we had it starting in September, And then we had it continue until February, if my memory serves me right. So I can give you those dates via an email, and then I think I just had some preliminary ideas for anyone to reach out. And then, you know, basing on conversations we had here, I just assigned somebody to them. So knowing the Alzheimer's Awareness Month was in November, Sue, I think I had you assigned to that one, is to reach out to somebody to present on that time. And I think for finance, you know, looking at tax season, trying to identify what the best time would be for them, and vice versa. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, and that can be a really good start into that senior center as well, as kind of looking at that space for that. We booked the Lions, oh, we did not book the Lions Pavilion. We booked one of the rooms within the recreation center, I believe. So we can definitely use that as kind of a, how does this space feel for us? Is this too small? Is this too large? You know, what can we use this space for?
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Can I mention one other thing real quick? One other thing. Education, I find, is a great tool for getting people, especially older adults, and even some lighter educational things too. It's just a way to get people involved and kind of gear different interests, not only with the Alzheimer's finances, but some lighter, like we're fortunate Carver County Historic Society. They do some great educational programs. So there are a lot of possible ideas that aren't real labor intense that we can maybe get a gauge or, you know, a temperature on what type of things appeal to people.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got lots of good ideas, other ideas around here. Curtis always wanted to do something with baseball, right? Victoria Vicks. So are you keeping a list of these potential topics, or is there somebody that we need to do a brainstorming session with this group, or have you already got this started?
I have this started. I have the email drafted. I just need to hit the send button and get that out there as potential topic ideas. Actually, Dawn provided us some really good presenter ideas a couple months ago too. So another great resource that has a million different avenues for us to kind of move this forward. Obviously, we're looking at doing this not just these couple of months, but hopefully do this, you know, next year and the year after that and continue. So we'll definitely need to keep coming up with new presenter ideas or
Yeah.
conversation ideas. Doesn't need to be a formal presentation by any means.
Okay.
Great. All right, so we'll make that amendment, but could I get a motion first to make an amendment to the work plan? One, to strike the 2023 with the Senior Expo, and maybe strike the bullet points underneath. We're just looking at potential options for 2023 for hosting, and then adding the review of the senior facility space.
I move that we do what Alyssa just said.
Perfect.
To a modification.
That definitely works.
Is that a formal motion?
Yep, we can take that.
I'll
Need a
second
second
it.
here.
All right.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good.
Wonderful.
Okay, I have a question about the walkability study that begins next month, and how you see our role in that.
Great question. So I think the first thing to do is take a look at, and this is the plan for next month. So this is kind of a sneak peek. It hasn't been addressed on the agenda yet, but this is what we'll most likely see. Take a look at Victoria on a map. So we probably won't be sitting so much at the dais at that point, but looking at Victoria as a whole, we'll have a big printout and just look at, you know, where our trails, where our sidewalks are, and just see if there's any natural routes that come to our attention at that point, like from getting, and we'll even have on there, you know, our major locations, the downtown, some of our schools that are in our community, some of our parks. And then we can hopefully just map them out and see how they look from a map perspective. And then obviously at our next upcoming meeting, not necessarily June, hopefully July, but that will be weather dependent. We don't want to do this if it's too hot. But take a walk and see some of those trails. Like if we found one that looks really promising from Victoria downtown to maybe Bethesda or the Cornerstone Village, that seems like a really good route to take. You know, let's just take a walk and see what's the elevation look like. How far does that distance take us? You know, just take a look at some of those things, and then we can make determinations on if those maps or if those routes actually look good for us, if that's something we want to recommend into a formal trail route. That makes sense. But first step, next month, we'll be looking at those actual maps and seeing if there's anything that stands out to us.
Yeah, great. We're down ready for other business. Any other items of business that anybody wants to bring?
Does city staff have a recommendation or a preference on the size of our group? Are we supposed to be
Great
recruiting?
question. I'm glad you mentioned that because that was on my other business as well. So we do have, I think, up to 7 members that can be part of this group, and obviously we're leaning a little short. So on our side, we're trying to actively promote that there's still openings on this group. If you know of somebody that might be a really good fit or could be interested, please send them our way because we'd like to boost these numbers a little bit more. Obviously,
Do we have 6 official members now?
we have 4 official members with Patrick from Victoria Library and Julie Hughes from the Cornerstone Villages as liaisons.
So those aren't official voting members.
Nope, they don't technically fit within our quorum standards.
We have 4 and we have room for 3 more.
Yep.
That'd be great. Anybody have any ideas? So you know everybody in town.
Probably word of mouth is the best. I'm excited now that we're moving to phase where there's a little more action. So
Yeah.
I think it will be easier. It's funny, I talked to 4 people. I played pickleball this morning and I asked them about Victoria, what they knew about, did they ever look at the senior resource package? Did they go to the city website? So, you know, as we hopefully develop and have some more action that we can get people involved. I don't know if we want any type of printout or out, just mentioning it to people you know for involvement probably is the best way to do it.
It doesn't help a lot for this time either, but when we start these monthly meetings, if a reminder there each time, get involved, you know, sign up. I think people that come there are obviously interested, so that'd be a good source. But that's a few months away.
Yeah.
The only other thing I mean, the possible 2 best gathering spaces, and this is only my opinion in Victoria for older adults, is the library and the rec center.
Right.
Is there any way to have any information displayed there or, you know, just to enlighten or let people know that there is a senior committee and we'd like your involvement?
We can definitely get some flyers out at the rec center, and we can talk to Patrick. He wasn't able to make it today about what they can post down at the library.
Yeah, good idea.
And yes, word of mouth is really important. So if you do know of anybody or you're talking to your neighbor or your fellow pickleballers, please let them know that there's openings, and we'd be happy to have them come in and participate.
Excuse me, I know we're running late, but a couple other things. I know at one time at the farmer's market, the city had a booth. And did you have one, well, that was farmer's market, that's Thursday, right? So, not that I'm advocating for this, but to have a presence maybe at a car show or at the farmer's market with the senior committee, I mean, just, or at some event, or the pickleball, I mean, if there is anything. Just for us to be there for a while and say, are you interested? We're excited about some of this, and
Absolutely.
it might
Yeah.
be a good, I think, a face with a name and promoting something. It's not
Absolutely.
a bad way to go.
The farmers market switched a little bit this year, but it will be on Thursdays. Anki Brewing is actually hosting them at their location still, so they're going to be the ones managing it. However, we are planning on having city booths related to that, and I think, you know, we've talked in years past about doing something like that, and I think that's a perfect space to bring our resource guide and just to chat about what the committee does. And, you know, now that we're kind of looking at a senior facility space, we can talk to residents about maybe what they want to see in that space. Too, so. Awesome. And from a little bit of news on the pickleball courts, because yes, we definitely want to be participating in that. We are just reinstalling the light fixtures. The light fixtures were placed in a space that would be challenging to navigate around for pickleballers, so we're putting them back in their space that needed to be. That construction takes, you know, anywhere from a week to 2 weeks, so we just got kickstarted on that last week. And then the drawing of that takes an extra 30 days. So once that is set, then we can kind of redo the paint that's around there, and then hopefully we can open up in late June. So that's kind of where we are now, but more to come on the pickleball courts. We're really excited to get those up and running.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Any other?
I just want to take a minute to thank you for all you do to keep us together and everything you bring forth. And keep us on track and keep us remembering where our vision is.
Yeah.
and where we're going.
It's okay.
Here, here.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
The committee does great work already, and so I'm excited to see, you know, what we can do more, especially with this facility idea coming in mind. This excites me just as much as it excites you all, so I think it's going to be great.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we
Sue,
adjourn.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Jack seconds. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
And thank you for being here. We appreciate
Yes,
your
thank you.
attendance.
Thank you.